Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Checking in from San Diego, joining me is Josh Mansfield on this Tuesday, October 21st, following the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship. What? Somebody said that this tournament is getting an identity finally, and the identity is drama. What do you think, Josh?
I was just thinking, I was like, man, I was really, this was entertaining because it was kind of a mess. It's true. And you think back to even like previous iterations, like the Ricky Gannon battle last year, Nathan Queen winning. There's some drama to this event. And I think that it's interesting because when they made the switch away from like the weird match play or like the round reset thing that they used to do with like the buys, I was like, man, it's probably gonna have less drama. And in fact, even with the starting strokes, I think it's been more dramatic than it was under that old iteration.
Yeah, and they used to force reset everybody to even par before the final round. So it was like right. 4-way tie guaranteed. I thought I'm not sure what the right answer is for this tournament still. I think reducing the starting stroke element this year a little bit. Somebody emailed in and said the way to think about this tournament is like a 5-round tournament where the first round is your season.
Yeah.
And like there's pros and cons to that. You know, I heard players complaining, some players complaining, like, oh, it's like an impossible hill to climb to win this tournament. It's like, well, that's the point.
Right.
The point is that you didn't play good enough during the season. You now have a deficit that you have to overcome. And you can overcome it.
Sure. If only there was a way that they could have started more strokes. What a mystery.
Yeah. So we'll see what comes of this tournament format over time. But at the end of the day, New London and Ivy, this is going to be a spot that we go to on tour on the round.
I think so too.
And I think it's pretty good.
It is pretty good. And they've made some improvements this year that just like change of like small tweaks, even big substantial like changes on hole 14. Just lot and you know it's interesting having it like having Worlds on a course that we've never even tried before, and I think that had we been able to kind of flip-flop this iteration was even better, and I look forward to using New London, for example, for Champions Cup. Yeah,
I mean it was a bear. Let's talk the headlines really quick. Calvin Heimburg wins his first Pro Tour championship. Ultimately wins by 3 shots over Aaron Gossage and Isaac Robinson. Over an FPO, Holyn takes it down by 4 strokes over Paige Pierce. But it was such a wild ride to get to this point. Like, if you just look at the leaderboard, you're like, oh, cool. Like, Holyn started with the lead and she won. And it's like, well, yes, but, you know, it was clear. It was not in her hands the whole time. Like, she had to battle super hard to win. And Calvin, I basically left him for dead in the middle of the back nine in the final round. It's incredible that he won, and it's even more incredible that he won by 3 shots.
Calvin should not have won this tournament. Like it was out of his hands. He needed help, and he got it. That's plain and simple. And there's some numbers that back this up a little bit. Someone pointed out in our rapid reacts that Aaron Gossage was at 34 under at one point, and Calvin's winning score was 33 under. I think it was at that point, Calvin was at like 30 or 31. And so it was probably 30. And so just tough there. And this is actually the lowest event rating for a tournament win this season. So something that I had highlighted in the reacts that I really like. Go ahead.
I was just going to say New London gives out falsely compressed round ratings, but because Calvin shot that incredible round to open things up.
Now, let me offer you some counter evidence, though. Isaac won Worlds with a 1056 rating, which would have put that, right in the middle of a pack of not the highest event ratings, but for these 4 rounds or wooded courses, very par for the course. But at 1049, this is the only sub 1050 event rating tournament of the season. And we play plenty of tournaments that have difficult woods tracks that compress scores. So, is 1049 like probably unjustly low? Yes. But I would be willing to bet that some of those 1050s or 1051s are also unjustly low as well. And so pairing it up with courses that are tournaments that it should have probably competed with, that this is the lowest event rating that we've seen for a tournament, and 7 points lower than what Isaac won Worlds with last year. Obviously slightly different durations, but still a fairly good comp.
You have more stats.
Yeah, I've got one other though, and this is why Calvin won it, right? And when I say Calvin shouldn't have won it, I mean that Gossage was so firmly in the driver's seat that he there's no way Calvin by his own efforts alone could have made up the difference. There weren't enough holes left. And so he needed help from Gossage. He gets it. We'll talk about it. But it still required Calvin to walk through the door in order to put it away in the manner that he did. On holes 15 through 17, Calvin went 4 down. If you take the field average, removing Calvin's final round for those 3 holes across the tournament, the field played those holes 0.76 above par.
Wow.
So Calvin made almost 5 strokes on the field on those holes.
I mean, if you just scroll down like the leaderboard and you look at 17, it's like more bogeys than not.
Yes.
And obviously, as is well known at this point, but if you're just catching up or you didn't watch the tournament or you haven't been listening to anything yet, he was the literal only birdie on 16 for the whole day in the final round.
It was bad weather.
His play on 15, 16, 17 was as good as a 3-hole stretch of disc golf as you're going to see the whole year.
Yes.
Unbelievable. Clutch, insane, risk-taking, perfect shot making, C2
Huge
bangers.
Putts. Yes.
Unbelievable.
Everything,
I have a stat
everything
for
you
you.
could have wanted. Oh, okay.
I have
What's
a
your
stat
stat?
for you. Calvin Heimburg managed to win this tournament despite being one of the worst C1 putters at the tournament. I'm pulling up the stats right now. He was minus 5 strokes gained C1, which was 4th worst at the tournament. He putted 77% from C1X. He got worse
Sub
every
80?
round. Yes. He got worse every round. Josh, how did he do it? What he did is he led the tournament in circle 2. He was he was second in C2. I apologize. Shout out to Gavin Babcock, who had more opportunities. Calvin had the best percentage at 57%. 8 for 14, 4.16 strokes gained, basically netting him out to a slightly underperforming putting performance. But he didn't take big numbers, and he led the tournament in C1 in regulation. So he gave himself a lot of looks. Part of the reason that he got so cooked by the C1 stats is because he had a lot of C1 putts that were of consequence.
And at 34 made, he's very solidly in the middle of the pack in terms of like actual number of made putts. But to your point, he was looking so often that pulls his percentage down.
So overall, just did enough tee to grip. But I mean, look, let me give you this.
Okay.
I'm not even quite sure how to square all this up. Calvin Heimburg was slightly behind Aaron Gossage in strokes gained tee to green.
Okay.
He was like basically identical on the putting green. Aaron actually putted well from C1 and putted poorly from C2. Gossage went OB 4 fewer times than Calvin. The problem is that he took some huge numbers, basically.
Yeah.
Like Aaron Gossage's birdie percentage was 53%. He was in a league of his own. He just took these huge numbers at the end of the tournament. I mean, it really comes down to 14 and 16.
Yes.
And we obviously have to talk about what happened on 14.
Yes. Right before we do, I think this is the best way to put it. The reason the numbers are weird, the reason all these stats are bizarre, is because Calvin was the second best player on the weekend. The best player imploded, and as soon as he did, Calvin like went after him with the precision of a surgeon to just tear him apart on those back three holes, like tear apart those three holes that allowed him to leapfrog critical mistakes by Aaron Gossage. But Aaron was the better player on the weekend. That's why all this is so, like, you have like some small like things of like heroism from Calvin of like just like unbelievable golf that he needed in order to beat what ultimately was the better player on the weekend. All right, let's talk about it.
Are you the better player though, Josh? If you can't close.
No, you're not. But
I get what you're saying. Truly, I get
Aaron
what
had the better play, right?
I mean, Aaron opened up this round with 4 birdies in the first 5 holes. Calvin goes 5 straight pars. Then there's a 3-shot swing in Gossage's favor at the 7th when Calvin double bogeys. Mm-hmm. And then they trade some strokes here and there. But, I mean, the deficit is pretty significant going into 14. Gossage has a 3-shot lead over Isaac Robinson. Calvin is a shot back of that. Mm-hmm. And then over the final 5 holes, Calvin Heimburg picks up 8 strokes on Aaron Gossage. That's crazy.
Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. So let's talk about 14. There's so much that happened.
I know.
And we went through this in the rapid reacts. My overall view, after watching back more tape, rewatching on Jomez some, kind of
did the same thing,
seeing like how Aaron handled this hole, and then like moving forward in the tournament, my view has changed somewhat. But I want to talk specifically about 14 first.
Okay.
So he slips on the tee pad.
Yes.
This is not a dispute. This is part of the facts. Okay.
Yeah.
He slips on the tee pad. He goes OB left. If he doesn't slip, does he not go OB? Probably. He was throwing it incredibly well.
Yes.
So he's immediately he's pissed. And I get it, right? You got a 3-shot lead. You only have 5 holes left. All you got to do is just keep it in the middle for the most part, and you're probably going to win. And he goes OB. So then he gets down there, and he's actually third to throw. Mm-hmm. And so he's like trying to figure out where he wants to take his lie. So he kind of sets his initial lie. Then he brings it way further back, I don't know, 15, 20 feet back in order to kind of open up the angle into the green because he's deciding he's going to go for it. Mm-hmm. And he takes a pretty long time to set all of that up.
He takes over like almost 2 minutes.
Depending on when you say addressing the lie, like what is addressing the lie? If you address your initial lie and you decide, no, I'm changing my lie, I personally think clock starts when you address the initial lie that you take off of the OB line. But I can hear an argument, and it's obviously not defined explicitly in the rules about something like this.
Yep.
And they may have to change that for exactly a situation like this. Like, does it reset because he decides he's going to take it back? Ultimately, whatever, he still goes over the 30 seconds, even on his second lie after he range finds and da-da-da-da-da. And he gets a time warning from Brian Cole.
At the most generous interpretation, if you give it, I think the most generous you should give him. I don't think it's like once he sets his mini down, grabs his bag, moves his stuff, and then stands there. That's not, I think that's too much. If you want to say it's when he sets his mini down with the drawn back lie, and that is the moment when he has now addressed the lie, I think it was still something like 50 seconds or 52 seconds.
Yeah.
So almost a minute anyways, even if you count that.
Let's just pause here before we move forward, because there's just the specific decision by the Pro Tour officials to clock him in this spot. It's obviously a very big moment in the tournament. It's a very big moment in the round. He clearly broke the rules by the book. But Paul Ulibarri on the Jomez coverage and Germ basically were like, this shouldn't happen. Like, they're on the lead card Why is he getting clocked? There's no reason to clock him. Most of these cards don't have an official. Why should this scrutiny suddenly be applied to the lead card who's not slowing anybody down behind them? There's no pace of play issue. So we've obviously addressed this topic before, but what are your thoughts on just the decision for the clock to be called here?
Gossage is not the fastest player in the world anyway. And so my suspicion is that there had been a shot earlier that had prompted them to clock. I doubt they were clocking every single shot, but I bet there reached a point like when he took, because here's the thing. You can't meander to your lie as a means to get extra time.
Right.
And if you're trying to decide whether or not you want to take it back, Gossage still gets to play that line in his head. Oh, what's the line from right here? What's the line from back there? Where am I going to go for the island? How far is it? Like, he's making these decisions. He's making this calculus as he's doing those things. That is time he gets to calculate. So even if the Pro Tour says, you know what, we're not going to start it until he decides where his lie is. But then once he's taken his minute change to make that decision, then I'm going to start the clock on him because he gets 30 seconds to actually address the lie and throw the shot. I think that's fine. We've also talked about the fact, one, the Pro Tour doesn't consistently enforce this as a pace of play issue anyway. And so it's like, I wish they would. I wish if a card was not causing delays that they never put a clock on them because I'm not worried about it. But because I think pace of play matters way more than the individual 30 seconds. If we wanted to change to a group pace of play standard and just lead card never gets punished for it, I mean, that's a choice we could make, but I don't think that's the right application. And number two is we've talked about before, like you also get benefits of being on lead card. You have benefits of people watching your shot where you might find a disc that is it's not lost because you have spectators. You get the benefits of like Gannon has watched DGN to determine where his lie is before he ever walks up there so that he knows what he's dealing with. Like you get perks of being on lead card. You also get additional scrutiny.
You get perks welcome out on the lead card.
Yeah. Dang it, Charlie. You get both. You get both. And you have to just accept that you get both. And part of that might be you have an official, and when you go over time, you're going to get clocked. But again, it's a time warning. If it was a stroke, all right, let's talk. Time warning?
I remember being mad about this when they clocked Gannon at European Open last year. Was it last year? I just remember they time warning to Gannon. They didn't give him a stroke. They just gave him a warning. In a very similar kind of situation where it's like, we're in the final round. There's these shots of consequence happening. Gannon goes over time. He gets called. And it felt to me at the time, and I'd have to go back and listen to exactly what I said, but it was like, what's the problem? Like he's on the lead card. You're not addressing other players taking too much time. You're specifically targeting Gannon for taking too much time. For whatever reason, I feel differently about this one. Perhaps because he went so far over.
Oh my gosh, it was so
like
egregious.
You have no choice but to clock if this is the rules that we're going to play by. And to some extent, like if we're going to say in the rules that you have X seconds, then everybody should be held to that standard. And just because there's not officials on the other cards, like the other players could say, hey, clock. Mm-hmm. Like, I understand that players never actually do that in practice, so maybe there's a reason not to do it. But I don't really have a problem with the clock being called in this spot because he took so long. Yeah. So anyway, does it really matter that much? Probably not. So, but he's missed the shot. He gets clocked after he misses the shot. So he barely misses the island, and he's muttering to himself about how 6 inches, I make the island. And then he's expecting to take it from the drop zone.
Right.
But the spotter says, no, you didn't hit the rocks. The string's on the outside of the rocks. Not really sure why, but that's what they did. Maybe they wanted the rocks to be in. If you land on top of the rocks, you're good. This is it's like watching Bigfoot footage. Okay. People are like zoom and enhance on the did it hit the dirt? Did it hit the rock?
Yeah.
Look at how it bounced. It must have hit the rock. No, but look, there was dirt that sprayed up into the air. Therefore, it must have hit the dirt. I don't know what happened. The spotter was standing over there. Like, to me, this is just like sort of a nothing burger. And the problem is that Aaron Gossage did not handle it well.
No.
Like, did he get jobbed? Maybe. I don't think there's been any clarity for me to say whether it hit the rocks or didn't hit the rocks. I can see the arguments from both sides. And at the end of the day, I feel like you have to trust the spotter.
I don't think it even impacted his score.
Right. I mean, that's the question. I think he probably, he definitely takes a 6.
Oh, you're right. He does
a
get
double if he's from the drop zone. He could have gotten a 5, right? He could have saved it from the drop zone.
He couldn't have saved that. That dude was on tilt. That guy was not making that putt.
Fair enough. I'm going to get to that. So he misses the putt. So he makes the shot up there, but he's in C2. Yep. He misses the putt. So mad. Slams it in there. And he walks up and putts out a turn. And, he takes a triple bogey. Now, he's still tied for the lead after this hole. But it feels like he just didn't handle this hole well at all. And he's complaining to Jeff Spring. And he's mad that he got called in the time warning. He's mad at the spotter. He's mad at the tee pad. He's mad at everything. And I feel like he stopped making high quality decisions a little bit during that hole. And I don't, it's a hard call, I think, of whether he should have gone for the green on his, what was his third shot after going OB off the tee, or he should have laid up. Like, the conservative layup play definitely makes sense given that he had a 3-shot lead.
Could salvage a 5.
He has the power to get onto that shot. It's not like he missed that shot by a mile or anything. He barely missed getting up on there. And he could have walked away with a 4 or even a 5 at worst, 4 at best.
Yeah. Either way, though, you have to stop and say, okay, you know what? It was a time warning. I love Gannon's attitude towards this when he's like, when I have a really important, like I save my warning for when I really need it. And then when I need it, I just take as long as I want. And then I just take my time warning. Like, love that attitude. Aaron should just go, yeah, I took 2 minutes. I needed it. I take my time warning. Let's go. Like, game it, right? Like, use that rule to your advantage.
Instead of getting starting to you want to go have a fight with Jeff Spring about why am I getting clocked here? Like, what is the spotter? I don't know what he said to Jeff Spring, but the question then for me is, did this cost him the tournament?
Yes.
Did this attitude breakdown cost him the tournament? Do you think so?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely cost him the tournament, because at that point, so he does salvage 15, but then 16 he 3 putts, can't make it. 17 has a really good run. I mean, he deserves credit for the run on 17. 18, I mean, it's almost over at this point anyway, but
it's already over. Once Calvin parked it on 17, it was GG.
It was over. On 18, though, on the second shot, Gossage, is holding 2 discs, trying to decide, switching back and forth, grabs his one, and the second he drops the disc, he just throws. No looking, no thinking, just throws it straight into the dirt 100 feet in front of him. And so it's already clear over. that attitude had not been, it's clear that he had not gotten over it, right? Even if that part of, the tournament was over at that point, he was very clearly, being just kind of a little bit I don't know, obstinate about it, oh, you're gonna clock me, I'm just gonna no warm up, I guess. Anyway,
I honestly think Gossage would have lost this tournament regardless.
Whoa.
Now here's why, okay? Because this is what I've been thinking about, because I was watching it back, because he birdies 15,
right?
Which is, a very birdieable par 5.
But yeah, you need to.
Especially for Aaron's power. The fact is, Calvin went eagle birdie on 3 really tough holes.
Okay.
He gets a rare eagle on the 15th, the only birdie on the 16th, and a tough birdie on the 17th. And I think that would have been enough for him to win this tournament after the 7 at 14.
So here's
I don't think let me finish my point,
Yep.
and then you go.
Sorry.
I don't think what happened on 16 was like directly related to what happened at 14. After watching it again, the wind was insane on the putting green at the 16th. Now, maybe, Upshot could have been a little closer. Three putting is obviously brutal. But even if he two putts, he's probably losing. It's still a two-shot swing at that point. And then Calvin Park 17. So I ultimately think that it's easy to tell the story. And this was immediately my take in the reacts. I was like, he cost himself this event because of his over the top reaction at the 14th. Yeah. I actually think like he did the damage at the 14th, and then Calvin was like godlike for 3 holes, and there's no way Aaron Gossage was going to beat him even if he played perfect mental game the rest of the way.
Here's the problem with that take. I don't think Gossage takes a 7 on 14 without the tilt.
Perhaps.
I think if he just accepts like let's pretend the wind sheared him off and he goes, wow, that was crazy, right? Goes down to the bottom, throws it up. Like, so what? Then at that point he's throwing 3, goes OB 4, so throwing 5, save 6. Yeah. I
think he makes the putt without the tilt?
Because I don't think he puts it so far. I think he puts it I think he puts it in circle 2 because of the tilt.
Yeah.
I think he puts it closer without the tilt.
Yeah.
Saves himself a stroke. And then birdie, and then I think he has a better chance of birdieing 16. And then we have a like tie ball game or Gossage still ahead.
Yeah. It's true. I mean, obviously if he plays conservatively on the 14th and plays it for a 5, he probably gets out of there, and at that point definitely has a chance to win, of course, because he's got a 2-shot lead. Yeah, it was wild. It was wild. I mean, to me, clearly, regardless of your take on like whether he lost, whether 16 was caused by the tilt on 14, Aaron's going to have to learn to manage these emotions better.
Yeah.
There's just no doubt in my mind. Like, you can't just immediately turn into like, everyone's against me. I'm being, this is so unfair. The rain is unfair. The spotter is unfair. The OB is unfair. Like, just own it. Like, okay, mistakes happen.
Yes.
Like, bad break. How do I optimize from here and not let, like, because he was fighting about this for all through this hole and beyond.
Yeah.
I thought it was, it was obviously like, it was way over the top. I don't think he'd like, someone was like, in the Discord was like, is Aaron Gossage the new Nico? It's like, no, this is not berating an official. This was just him being really steamed about calls and like a set of circumstances that felt unfair to him. I didn't think it was like beyond what you would see like in an NBA game. But in an NBA game, people, they complain to the refs for 2 seconds and then they go and they rebound the basketball and we play. Right? Like Gossage was like tilt steam for 10 minutes, it felt like.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Like, you want to get pissed about this? You want to say you were gypped? Fine. Say you were gypped. Get mad at him. But then you have to convert that and be one of those players that converts that emotion into success, right? Who says, you know what? Dak stacks against me. I'll show these losers. Like, watch this. You give me a time warning. Give me a bad spot. I don't care. I look how I played all weekend. I'm just going to dunk this in your face. Right? Like, he needs to have the attitude that he's going to take this emotion and just posterize the field with it, thanks to his chip on the shoulder. Right now, like, he just gives up. It feels like he just like mentally beats himself, and that's not a helpful display of emotion.
I agree. I totally agree with that. All right. Well, more to come. We're going to take a quick break right now. We're going to be talking with Calvin Heimburg about his first Pro Tour Championship win. We're going to be talking with Holyn Handley about her first championship win. Stay with us on the Upshot.
Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. The Royale with Cheese Mega Bundle is back. That means that you're going to get an Octotorp or an Octahall, whichever one you want. You're going to get the Disc Caddy. You're going to get the Hydra Pack with lumbar support, a mini, a flight towel, a rainfly, and a travel sack. You get a big discount on buying all those accessories separately. Now is the time. Buy the Pound bag that you're going to use for the rest of your life. Go over to PoundDiscGolf.com, grab yourself an Octo Royale with cheese.
Joining us now on the Upshot is the 2025 Disc Golf Pro Tour champion, Calvin Heimburg. Calvin, great to have you back so soon. Another huge marquee win for your 2025 season. How's it settling in to be the Pro Tour champion at the end of it all?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty amazing. It's not a tournament I've won before, so yeah, it's really cool. I mean, the format changes all the time, so it's like you never really know what you're going to get going to that one. But I think this kind of format definitely helped me out with the stroke advantage, and just, getting an advantage throughout the entire event for playing well throughout the season.
We were talking about this in the Rapid React. Sorry, Josh.
No, yeah. I bet you're going to ask a very similar question.
Yeah. I'm curious right away. Would you take this season over 2023 as like the best season? Do you feel like this is the best season of your career so far?
I think the highs are certainly higher, but I don't know. Like if I had to choose one, I'm choosing this season over 2023. Like if I have to pick one of the two and like that's all I get, I'm choosing this one because, I got the major win. I don't know. I guess me personally, I don't know that I value this tour championship like any better than a normal tour stop. I don't know why. I don't know. The tour championship has never had like this prestigious identity. I mean, there's always a big paycheck, which is awesome, but I don't know. I think they're still trying to figure out how to make it seem like something big. But yeah, I would take this year, even though I think I played way better in 2023.
That actually, you kind of answered what I was going to ask about, which is how we weight this tournament. So if you were to say like you could win MVP Open or Tour Championship, would you take the Tour Championship?
I don't know. That's a weird one because I think MVP is kind of like one of my bucket list ones.
Okay. I think it's a lot of people's bucket list, which is why I picked it.
So like, I guess like I kind of put them on the same level.
Okay.
Like they're both pretty close. I mean, the Pro Tour Championship, I mean, the payout's probably at least double what MVP was. But yeah, MVP is a place I would love to win one day.
Okay, so you think it's on the equivalent of maybe one of the more prestigious tour stops, just DGPT stops. Okay. Second question then, and you made mention of the benefit that goes your way, and so maybe that's just going to be your answer. Is this the format that you think we should stick with for the Pro Tour Championships? Do you like the old like round reset buy system? Do you like the starting strokes? Do you wish there were more starting strokes? I know the PGA just did away with starting strokes for their tour championship. So would you prefer that everyone starts even? What do you think is like the best format for this event?
I certainly like stroke play, whether you have starting strokes or not. I like that like it's continuous throughout the whole thing. I wasn't a huge fan a few years ago where like after 2 rounds it reset, and then honestly like all the other formats where it was like whether you're playing your card or I don't know, there were so many different weird formats. I didn't necessarily love those either because I don't know. I guess it might bring in more variability, which might be exciting to watch, but I feel like it's your tour championship, and it's like if you want to, have the best there at the end, like you should probably play it like every other tournament throughout the year. So I don't know about the starting strokes. I could live with or without them. But as soon as you kind of take those away, I feel like it might de-incentivize. I don't know. I guess like I don't think the points award is like that. Like no one really harps on it too much. I don't feel like it's like the one advantage you get would be strokes, and it's like if there is no strokes, it's not like there's a payout for points. So it's like I don't know. I think you could potentially see like I think from the Pro Tour's perspective, it's like we need to keep these people playing as many like the top guys playing as many events as we can. And you have to incentivize them to play those events, and that's how they're going to do it. But like if I can get in with 32nd place or whatever, I may skip a couple extra events.
Let me ask one follow-up then. Would you prefer a tour championship that has no starting strokes, but there is a smaller payout, but you get season payouts? So, maybe it's just a normal tour series amount, and then they give whoever's the top 15 grand just as a bonus for finishing at the top of the standings, and then just make tour championship a straight stroke play event? Or do you prefer weighting the championship with your performance with the starting strokes?
Yeah, I've thought about it a little bit. And I don't know if there's a right answer. I feel like the Pro Tour wants the tour championship to be like a big event. And I think as soon as you pull basically money from that to just be like a points payout, it already becomes less. Like I've already established, I think it's like on par with maybe a prestigious Pro Tour, maybe like a DGPT playoff or plus event or something. Like that's kind of where I value it already. And it's like if you pull the money away from it, it's like it kind of you're pulling away from what it already kind of has. Like that's kind of all it has is its identity right now is like a big payout. So that would be tough, I think, for the tour championship. Yeah, I don't know. I think the way it isn't bad, but I don't know that I wouldn't be upset if it was just, if you got in, it was just straight stroke play either.
Well, let's talk about the tournament. You open up with a sparkling 9 under at New London, and you're right there throughout the tournament. And it felt watching like you had fallen out of the conversation midway through the final round. How did you feel? Like, did you still think going, middle of the back 9 before we saw what happened at 14, of course, did you still think you were in it with 6 holes to play?
I knew the odds were stacked against me. Pretty much once I threw out of bounds there on 12, and bogeyed 12, I knew it was like pretty stacked against me. I knew I was gonna have to play like perfect to have like the slightest chance, because I mean it's not like there's one person in front of me I need to falter. There's 2. So definitely was feeling pretty out of it. But yeah, then we got to 14, and I mean, I didn't throw that good of a tee shot. I was pretty far back on the fairway. I mean, Isaac threw a worse shot than me, so he had to throw first. But I was the second one to throw on that card. I was pretty far back, and if I'm closer to the lead, like I don't know that I'd go for that green. It was just with the wind and how far it was. It's not necessarily the place I want to be, and but it was like the beginning of my last ditch efforts to try to win the tournament. But yeah, I think really at that point, like it just seemed pretty unlikely. Like I had to play good, and other things had to go my way.
They did. Both of those things happened. What are your thoughts on what happened with Aaron Gossage on the 14th? The time warning, the rocks, the whole thing.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, there was a lot that happened. So I guess like initially, he threw his tee shot out of bounds. He went out of bounds left, and it took him a while to throw that second shot to the green. It's kind of like he wasn't in a gimme range. He was kind of in a tricky spot. Like, he's tucked tight on the left side edge. So it's just not the greatest angle to approach from, and it's still a big shot. So he had a lot to think about, whether he was going to go for it, whether he wasn't. And I know he like reset his lie and the process, but it did take a lot of time. And then he ultimately didn't make the island. But when I was sitting there watching, like, I thought it hit the rock too. Granted, we're 400 feet away, but it looked like it hit the rock from where I was. And so then it was just a question of where the OB line was to me. And I guess in that time where I'm thinking this, and like we're working up the fairway, the Robinsons are throwing their approaches. Aaron gets his time warning, which he probably deserved based on, you know, how long it took. You know, it took a long time. I don't know the exact amount of time, but it was definitely it was probably over 45 seconds. It was probably close to, I don't know exactly when you want to start the clock, whether it's like when he had his first lie or his second lie, but at either of them, it's probably over a minute, honestly. I mean, it was drizzling. I felt like I was standing there for a while. But, yeah, we get up there, and Aaron was still down there because the official gave him a time warning. I see the lines on the outside of the rock, so I'm thinking, okay, both of them are down there. He's still down by the line, wondering if he has to throw from down there. And I'm like, the line's on the outside of this, so you probably are going to, you should take it up here. And in the process of me saying that, he's walking up the fairway, and then the spotter comes down, and he's like, one of them crossed and the other didn't. And he told us which one crossed, which one didn't. And ultimately he was an official. So it's kind of like out of our hands at that point. Yeah, it's like his call is the call. So we had to give him a spot back down on the line. And yeah, I mean, he ultimately ended up taking a 7 or whatever, but which is, I don't know, I guess a stroke worse than he probably would have ended up if he had to go to the drop zone. But I don't know, a lot happened there. I mean, it would be a lot to process, you know, being him, you know, getting a warning, having a weird rules call that doesn't quite make sense. Like there's a lot going on and a lot to take in at that point.
Did you feel like he was still comporting himself appropriately for what you would expect to be like acceptable at the Pro Tour? Like I'm wondering if you were bothered by him talking to Jeff Spring, or like he putted out a turn to tap in for 7. If any of that was a bother to you, since you were stepping up to putt and you did miss that putt.
Yeah, I think like the whole situation, you know, it wasn't happening to me, but I was, you know, in it. You know, I think there was a lot going on, and I just didn't do a great job at refocusing myself when it was, you know, my turn to actually play. But like I understand all of Goose's frustrations on that hole. You know, he's very competitive, and you know, it's always like he's not out there, you know, trying to break any rules or anything. Like, and I feel like he's actually, you know, he's very involved. He's very involved with like the Players Council and everything. So like he knows the rules, and I feel like for him, you know, maybe being called on a rule with how involved he is in a lot of things, just it felt like maybe a gut punch too or something. But yeah, I mean, there was a lot going on. I won't say that he caused me to miss the putt. Ultimately, I have to walk up to my putt and make it. Like just like he has to walk up to his next shot and recenter himself, I need to do that as well. But yeah, there was definitely a lot going on that hole and even the next hole.
It wasn't as clear on footage about the next hole. So what was going on in the next hole?
There was, you know, I was frustrated with myself for missing the putt, but I believe he was still talking to the officials. Like he was still, you know, going back and forth with them, barking at them. I don't know everything he was saying. I was trying to get away from it because, you know, it was just, I needed to get away from that because I was still trying to, you know, I'd just been gifted 3 strokes. So I had a chance all of a sudden. So I needed to get back into it.
And at that point, like you're gifted 3 strokes, how does your game plan change, right? You just told us that you went for hole 4 or hole 14 and you went for the green because you were in your like, all right, I've got to just do anything possible to get some strokes here because otherwise it's game over. So now you've got 3 strokes. You're back in it. What's the game plan going into 15, 16, 17 that you ended up playing? Just spots.
Yeah, I mean, it's still go for it. I'm definitely closer than I was. I'm 2 back going into 15, but I'm 2 back of 2 people. So that's still like a lot of ground to make up in 4 holes. And, I eagled 15 the day before. So game plan was kind of just attack it the same way, try to get to that last little flat spot, which I came up just short of. And then try to attack the green from there. And even from there, it's like not the most straightforward approach to the green. There's out of bounds close, and just the way the angles are at that flat spot, it's like you kind of have to throw away from the basket and then try to make a putt. Like you can get like right side circle 1, but I feel like challenging up the middle is just asking for out of bounds.
I mean, 56-foot putt, got to be one of the putts of the year for you. For the eagle, and then you get the only birdie of the day at the 16th. I mean, just some incredible shot making. Do you feel like the eagle and then the drive on 16? Are you putting pressure with these shots? Would you say on Aaron and Isaac?
I'm not sure. Like I feel like 16's a hole that it's tough to birdie. Like even if you get over, it's not like a gimme birdie, but the only way to birdie is getting over. And, I'm still at that point back of 2 people. So I think, I've thought about it on the drive home. I was like, was it the right play to go for it on 16 or not? And like, I think being back of 2 people, like you almost have to. Like hindsight, it's like, yeah, they both had a bad hole, but going into it, like you're not expecting 2 people to take double bogeys. Sure. And at least for me, if I do get over, I'm giving myself a chance at birdie and, probably worst case scenario par. So I don't know if I was applying pressure because I don't know that they were feeling that stressed out about getting a par on the hole, but I do feel like, there was definitely pressure felt once we got to the green because all of a sudden I was close for birdie. Aaron wasn't too much farther than me for par, but Isaac was putting bogey from circle 2. So I think most of like the dynamic definitely changed there once we got to everyone's lies on the green.
When you look at like this tournament and kind of the events that preceded, to what extent do you, I guess, like, so you bogey the 12th. Is that the moment you said, I'm playing all out? The only chance I have is if I go for everything. Like, is that the moment that your attitude changed?
No, I mean, I feel like I'm generally going for most things, and like hole 13, I don't think plays that hard for us. Like it's, kind of a big tee shot, but the approach is pretty easy if you just throw the tee shot. I really do think the moment was, when I got down the fairway on 14, I wasn't, in the greatest spot. I hadn't thrown the best tee shot. I kind of just threw it down instead of out, so I didn't get all the glide. And that's really when it set in. It was like I was at a do or die point in my round.
And I'm trying to remember, and I think I remember you said... Did you say that you prefer chasing after we interviewed you after the European Disc Golf Festival?
I don't know what I said then. I think there's certainly less pressure chasing because no one's, expecting you necessarily to win.
Yeah.
But, I think hanging on to a win is a lot more pressure because you have something to lose as opposed to, trying to take something from someone else.
It just felt like your tee shot on 16 was a consequence of your, like, I'm chasing, I'm pressing, I'm doing whatever it takes. Like, and it felt like, I'm sure you were feeling some pressure, but like that execution, I think that's one of the best tee shots of the year. And it seems like that is a reflection of that, like that preference for chasing and that idea that you needed to go for everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, I was still needing to push, I was still, trailing two people. So, yeah, I mean, it was, it wasn't a great win for it, but, and it's also just a tricky air shot. It kind of has to look like it's going to be bad and out of bounds right for it to not go out of bounds left when it starts fading. So it's a scary one. And fortunately, yeah, I read it about as good as I could have.
We had Worlds here last year, kind of a new look, new London, some changes at Ivy Hill as well. How do you like this venue? And, we'll be back here for Champions Cup at the Wooded Track. Do you want to keep coming to this Virginia stop in the future, even if it's just a regular Elite Series?
Yeah, I really like the new London Tech layout. I think it played a little bit, it scored easier than I thought it would. I don't know if that's partially just due to not enough practice right after USDGC and just kind of being a little mentally tired after that tournament. But I really do like the course. I think it's going to be a great venue for Champions Cup. I think they'll probably tweak a few things before that event. I think like holes 6 and 7 are a little boring out there. But other than that, I think most of the course is really good. There's a lot of times where it kind of forces you to make choices, and I think that's a sign of a pretty good disc golf course.
Awesome. Well, I just love your wrap-up thoughts on the 2025 season. You get your first major win. You get your first Tour Championship. What are you thinking about heading into the off season and what you want to do next year?
Yeah, I mean, right now, I'm just thinking about resting a little bit, but I do have that one, the match play tournament in 2 or 3 weeks or whatever it is, beginning of November. And, but yeah, I think this year was a great year for me. I played solid throughout most of the year. It wasn't the flashiest year by any means, less podiums or even top 5s, but I still was up there. I kept it inside the top 10 for the most part. So I think I had a really good year, was able to get a couple solid wins in places I hadn't won before. And, just looking to continue that into the following season.
Awesome. Well, we enjoyed watching you this whole season. Of course, we'll be following match play, and there was a great clip of a little child saying that you were his favorite player, and that was just a really nice moment, I thought, to kind of cap off the year.
Yeah.
Calvin, thanks so much. Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Calvin Heimburg, 2025 Tour Champion, with us here on the Upshot. We'll be right back. Joining us now on the Upshot is the 2025 Tour Champion, Holyn Handley. Holyn, welcome back to the program. Congratulations.
Thanks for having me back.
You're joining us from the road. Fantastic. Where are you headed right now?
Yeah, we're on our way back to Oklahoma. We've got just about 6 hours left. So 18-hour drive. We're in the last 6 hours here.
At what point, is there a length of drive that you dread? Is what's the upper limit when you're like, oh, this is going to be an annoying drive?
It's tough. I mean, the West Coast drive is usually the most stressful one because that's about 24 hours. Usually we go from Oklahoma directly to Stockton, and that's a 3-hour drive. It's always something always goes wrong too. It's always a little bit stressful. But anytime it's more than 10, it's okay, you're looking at probably a multi-day drive, which can be tough.
When I was younger, I used to do big long drives like that. I grew up in Albuquerque, and nowadays living in New York, it's over 3 hours. I'm 3+ hours.
Yeah.
I'm soft as I've gotten older, but yeah, You
I would love it. I would love to just have a 3 hour drive.
easy.
That's easy.
All right. Well, congratulations on your first tour championship. This was it's a fascinating tournament. You come in with the lead, you got a 1-shot lead, and then, you kind of have a start that has got to make you feel a little uncomfortable. You start bogey, bogey, bogey. I imagine it's bringing back unpleasant memories from throw pink. And you kind of fight through this round and you're still tied for the lead after round 1. I'm just so curious to hear about like how you mentally handled this tournament, because it's obviously unusual in that you have this starting strokes. And then, Silva's playing incredible in the woods, and how you fought back to ultimately win. Like it seemed like a journey this weekend.
Yeah, that's one way to put it for sure. I mean, yeah, coming off of throw pink, like that was the worst start to a tournament I think I've ever had, going 7 up through 3 holes. Not throwing great, like definitely making mistakes, but also just getting like the absolute worst results possible from those mistakes. But yeah, going into the finale, like, 1 stroke over Missy, 2, 3, whatever strokes it was over Silva and Owen, like that's not comfortable when I have to go play in the woods against them. Like I may as well be starting even. And so that's kind of how I thought of it. I was like, just go in and play, try to ignore them. Like if I can be 2 rounds in and somewhat in contention, then, we can get over to Ivy, and that's where my strengths will, give me an advantage. And then, yeah, that first day was weird because like I was just so tired. I had multiple people tell me in the morning that I just looked exhausted, and I've like never had anyone come up to me and warm up and like ask me if I'm tired or whatever. And it was a weird feeling because normally on a good day, if you step up to a hole, you just kind of see the line. Like you just step up and your brain just kind of goes like, okay, boop, this is what the disc is going to do. And then you throw. But like I was just stepping up and like not able to dial it in and focus. And like all I saw was just trees. Didn't see the lines at all, just saw trees. And so it's kind of like starting to panic a little bit and freaking out because like my brain just wasn't locking in the way that it normally does. But we got a little more caffeine into me. And I think around like hole 8 or so, I started kind of waking up a little bit and feeling a little bit more like my usual self. And like, it had some frustration doing that round for sure, but it was kind of pleasantly surprised to see that I was still, tied for the lead. And had even had a putt to just have the solo lead there at 18. So that was a pleasant surprise. And then, after round 2, like having a much better day. I took like a really long nap after that first round and then got up, ate dinner, and went right back to sleep. So I got a ton of sleep and then hella caffeine, right off the bat, and was feeling a lot better in that second round. And then of course just had that really rough 18. And then, I threw that last upshot and I kind of turned around. I was like, it's not the first time I've blown up on hole 18, a hard par 5 on a hole 18 of a wooded course and like taking a 9. In fact, the last time I did that, I ended up winning the tournament because that was open at Austin. So I was kind of trying to remind myself of that and thinking like, it's Silva, like I could pick up 3 strokes on her in round 3 and then another 3 in round 4. Like that's very feasible. We're not out of this. So like, yes, very frustrated with that hole 18, but like walking into Ivy Hill feeling like I very much had a good chance. And then, had a couple of shots like round 3 that were kind of like leaking OB here and there, making a couple little mistakes, but still playing decently. And then just round 4, kind of felt like my normal self. Didn't feel like scared, didn't feel like felt super confident. And like, I was seeing the lines great. The disc was coming out the way it needed to. It was just able to finally like kind of put it all together.
I want to ask you about, you missed that putt in round 1 on the 18th and you got caught on a hot mic, having some words for yourself after that one. I'm just curious for like, how do you try to approach like the mental side of putting? Like, do you find that nobody likes to miss a putt. So do you bark at yourself like that regularly? I think a lot of people online seem to find that very sort of I don't know if endearing is the right word, but like relatable, perhaps.
Relatable.
Yeah. Like, I think some people would say, oh, you should never have that kind of negative self-talk about missing a putt. But on the other hand, like we've all been there. So how do you kind of think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something we definitely all experience it. So every pro, even the ones who are a little bit more stoic about it, like they definitely feel those emotions too. We're all human. Um, at least for me in that moment, the frustrating thing was that I didn't even give it the height, like the pace, the online, like everything about it was right. It needed a little bit more nose up angle so it could like glide to the basket. And I knew that when I was lining up that putt. I was like, you have to make sure you give this the height because you're going to want to short it. And then I shorted it. So it's the kind of thing where if I'm missing a putt because I was scared of it, or because I didn't give it the attention it needed, or because I didn't like focus well, that's when I get really frustrated, because those are all things that are within my control. If I had like run that putt and, maybe missed it a little bit high, but I gave it everything it needed to have a chance to go in, I don't think I would have been nearly as upset with the miss. And in fact, I went back to my campground that night and I worked on like, okay, let's make sure we're putting with the right nose angle so that we can get the disc to the basket. And then I felt like my putting was a lot better in the subsequent rounds. So yes, very frustrated in the moment. And then also, the round's over, so I can kind of let that frustration out a little bit more. I'm not having to like immediately, bottle it and move on to the next shot. But it's like, yeah,
Sure.
let it out, move on, figure out what I need to do to kind of fix that. And so, yeah, in the next round, fix that nose angle. And then even in round 3, I had my 2 most consequential missed putts were downhill putts. I had the downhill putt on 10 and the downhill putt on 16 that I whiffed both of them short. And so I went home that night and put my basket at the bottom of the hill and practiced those putts, so it's not just, I'm not just getting upset about it and, raging. Like I do go home and try to do something about it.
Yeah. This win breaks kind of a stretch of uneven play for you down the stretch of the season. And, I don't know if you're willing to talk a little bit about like what's been going on. I mean, you had this, not that anybody was ever going to keep a top 5 streak going for the entire season, but you didn't miss top 5 all the way through the European Disc Golf Festival. And then, you had some good results, but you also had some finishes outside the top 10 down the stretch of the season. What did something change for you? Was it course effects? Was it like a mental thing? And I'm just curious for like, what was different, if you think there was anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest difference was, it was around July is when I started kind of playing poorly. And normally in years past, the tour goes to Europe, I stay home and I take that month off. I take some time away from throwing. I get a lot of sleep, I rest, I do other stuff, and then I'll spend the back half of that break, working on skills that I feel like are maybe lagging a little bit, or stuff that, I need to bring up. And then I come into Ledgestone feeling just really hungry to compete again, because it's been a month. And instead of doing that, I flew to Europe for the first time, played that whole month, including, 2 pretty lackluster performances at the majors, which was frustrating. I also got sick again during that stretch, which was frustrating. And then when I got back and going into Ledgestone, I felt very much the opposite of how I typically feel at that time of the year. Instead of feeling, very recovered and hungry to go on, I was very just like tired and kind of burnt out. And then I didn't really have a good chance to try to address that. Sorry, we're going through some traffic right now. I didn't really get the opportunity to like kind of dissipate some of that fatigue. And so I really think that was the difference this time around.
Do you think you'll try to manage that differently next year as a result? Just the long grind of the season and like trying to find a spot to take a break?
Absolutely. I think I'm going to do Europe next year. I'm going to play the major and the 2 events in Sweden. Because anytime, I get to go to a new place and play a new event, I like to do that. And then, but I think what I'm going to do is pick maybe one or two events back in the US after that stretch to maybe take off, so that I can go into Worlds and into the playoffs part of the season feeling more recovered and like, not mentally exhausted like I was this year.
Of course, your win also opens up new questions about who the player of the year is in 2025. Do you think it's you? What case would you make for yourself if so?
I mean, I don't know. I like kind of looked around, like, because we've been driving, so I've had plenty of time to poke around and look at stats and stuff. It's hard to say because I think you can make a really strong case for me or for Missy or for Silva, because we all have pretty similar number of wins, but the two of them, of course, getting the majors. But then I got the tour points, and then I also have more top 10s, 5s, and podiums than either of them. But then if you look at the head-to-head, Silva actually has both of us beat there, but then has one fewer win than each of us. And then, like, do you count throw pink, as a factor in there? Because both of them had, obviously Missy getting first and Silva getting second. They both had a way better throw pink than me. You could make a case, honestly, for any of the three of us. So I would be, obviously very happy if I got it, but I wouldn't be mad if one of them got it instead. Because I think, like I said, you can make a case for any of us.
Yeah, that makes sense. How was the final round? You have Silva's still in the mix. Obviously, she didn't have a great round 3. Paige is right there. And, it's like kind of feels like it's going back and forth a little bit. Silva falls out after the first, 6 holes. But Paige is getting plenty of birdies early in that round. Were you focused mostly on Silva initially? Like, how are you game planning that final round?
Yeah, I mean, first, I looked at the forecast the day before, saw that the wind was going to pick up, and I thought, against both of them, that really played to my advantage. Because Silva, I think, to reach some of these holes has to, like, flip a disc up and get kind of more of a full flight. And then Paige, while she doesn't need to flip a disc up to get the full flight, that is just kind of her preference. She generally throws a little bit more understable stuff. And so I know, even if they're both playing well, the wind reads are going to be hard. And I think just my style suits that a little bit better. So I felt like I had a pretty good advantage going in. And then just judging off of, Silva's kind of body language the day before, it kind of felt like she was maybe lacking some confidence off the tee, obviously still putting very, very well. But I could tell like she was definitely feeling the nerves and maybe feeling some of the burnout too, because I just felt like from her body language, she didn't feel like as confident as she normally does. So I wasn't that surprised that she fell off kind of early and that it became a me and Paige battle. And then I also just knowing Paige, like her tendency is to be very aggressive on this course, and that can be punishing, especially in the wind. So I just was thinking like, let's stay solid. I think the odds are in my favor. Let's just play a really solid game. Let's not take myself out of it, out of like fear for certain mistakes, because I think that's what I did in Worlds last year. Was, certain holes I was so freaked out by, like, am I going to get the disc in bounds? Am I going to miss here, or wherever? And I think this year, just knowing that fear of mistakes made me make worse mistakes. And so this year kind of being like, okay, it's a windy day. There's the odds that I go over here is high, higher than normal. So like, let's just give the disc a chance and let's send it, and whatever happens, happens. And I felt like I kept that kind of mindset all day, and it really paid off.
Yeah. Do you like the format with the starting strokes and everything else?
I think it's fine. I think I maybe like the old format a little bit better because you're never gonna really get someone from way back being in contention in the Tour Championship, and if you're that player who's way back going into the Tour Championship, you're kind of like, well, I'm already like 8 off the lead, and I haven't even gotten a chance to try yet. So I feel like that's kind of a bummer because you work so hard to get there, and then you don't even get a shot at winning. So I don't love that. But having come into it with the strokes, like I like that because it feels like, I'm really only competing with maybe like 8 people, really. But yeah, I mean, I think it's fine. I don't know. I don't know what the best way to format this event is really.
Where does this rank for you in terms of wins? Like, is it a regular Elite Series? Is it above that? Is it a major?
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird because it's definitely not major level. Like you can just feel that when you're there. It's definitely not at that level. In terms of like prestige and stuff, I almost feel like Throw Pink was the biggest win in that regard. But in terms of how like difficult this win is to get, like you have to play well all season just to give yourself a shot at it.
Yeah.
So that definitely puts it above, a regular Elite Series for me. So yeah, I would say it's probably somewhere between like an Elite Series and a major.
Makes sense. There was some big drama in MPO. I asked you before we jumped on the air if you watched. You said you did. So I'm curious for your thoughts on what happened at the 14th with Aaron Gossage and Calvin coming through with the win, because it was just the biggest drama of the weekend.
Yeah, I can't help but feel for Aaron a little bit. I mean, he's my friend, obviously, so I was rooting for him. It's funny watching him kind of like melt down a little bit. I was almost like, man, is this what it's like watching me when I'm having a bad final round? Because I feel like I can relate a little bit to how those negative emotions feel. But yeah, I'm 14. I don't know. To me, it looked like he probably hit the rock and crossed in, and I think the people on the card wanted to give that to him, but ultimately it was the spotter who said he didn't, which sucks. I feel like he maybe caught a bad break there, but like I don't think he handled it as well as he maybe could have. I think the arguing with the officials not a great look, but like especially for like the time violation, because he's a guy who like he has some pretty strong opinions about the time violation, and he voices those pretty frequently. So the fact that he was getting upset that he got called for a time violation, I think is not great. But at the same time, I understand, like, if you're a player who very consistently, like, does not break that rule and really makes an effort to keep your shot within 30 seconds, and then there's players who do break that rule all the time and never get called for it, it is frustrating that you happen to get called for it. I would have liked to see him, lock in and get fired up, and like, he still had a tie for the lead after the whole 14, but I think he just like lost some confidence, which I feel that I can relate to that a lot. So I feel for him. I'm sad that he didn't win, but I'm happy that Vinny won. I like Calvin a lot too. So yeah. Crazy day.
Yeah, crazy for sure. So obviously this is your most successful season to date. What are your priorities for the off season, and looking ahead to 2026? What are you hoping to do?
I mean, step one is I'm gonna just spend a few days like just sleeping, basically. Clear some of this burnout, some of this mental exhaustion. Plan is to just kind of chill and do nothing until I feel like doing something again, and then get back into the gym and like getting strong and fit and stuff for next season, and then probably, I don't know, maybe around late November, early December, start practicing and start hammering away at what I think I need to improve for next year.
Awesome. Well, great playing this year. A lot of fun watching the division, and looking forward to seeing you out there next season. I guess you're in match play, right? Are you going to head out there?
Yeah. So we're heading home for now, and then we'll fly to match play.
Gotcha. What's the deal with that, by the way? Like, do you know how much money is on the line?
I think first place is 15,000, and like the minimum is 2,000. So there's some pretty good money on the line, I believe. Yeah.
All right. Since we're on the topic, do you like the way that they did this match play, like qualification thing this year?
Yeah, it was kind of a mess. Not gonna lie, I think
It was
my
definitely a
group
mess.
was the only one where it was a mess. Yeah, I mean, my group was the only one where everybody actually played all of the matches. So it's like you had a lot of people who just kind of by default got to go because people dropped or didn't finish playing their matches. And I mean, part of that, is Music City having such bad weather and us not able to play our first match there and then having to like scramble to get everything scheduled. But I did. Yeah, it was kind of a mess, but it's also the first year they've done it like this. So I would like to see them do it again next year because it was a lot of fun. And then maybe keep it to the tournaments where we're only playing 3 days because it's a lot to like try to prepare for a 4-day 2-course tournament and then you lose a practice day because you have to play a match. And then everybody else who wants to practice the course loses practice time because there's match play going on. So like, the week we had it at Krokol, that was super smooth because he had plenty of time to practice and then play that. But then, yeah, the one in Vermont was felt very condensed. But yeah, I think, it was a bit of a mess, but I think it's the kind of thing they could improve next year for sure.
All right. Well, good luck out there and enjoy some rest and downtime. Great to talk with you as always. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Holyn Handley with us here on the Upshot. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Upshot. Well, I've changed locations. Josh is gone. Everything is crazy. My Airbnb has no internet. I'm lost in this world, but I am at this very nice place. You can see the ocean here behind me. I'm in La Jolla, just north of San Diego proper. And thanks again to Holyn and Calvin for coming on. Great to chat with them about their tour championship wins, their first of their career. Josh had to go to law school, so just me for the rest of the way. Let's get to a couple of things before we sign it off today. First of all, Pursewatch. We already knew the purse, of course, coming in, but $152,150 for MPO, $110,100 for FPO for a total of $262,250. Still an enormous purse, and with just 53 players, easily the most money per person of the season, almost just shy of $5,000 per person. That is, however, down about 13% from a year ago. So this, I think reflects the shifting industry, maybe the financial position of the Disc Golf Pro Tour a little bit, that they can't keep this purse juiced quite so much. But are the pros really complaining about making a little bit less? I mean, of course, everybody wants to earn more money, but this is still a massive payout and a huge bonus paycheck at the end of the season. Picks. Well, not only do I get to crow about beating Josh in the picks, that was a done deal. But we get to announce the winner of the season-long picks competition, and subscribers have been making their picks all year long. And it truly did come down to this final event. Your winner in 2025 is Hampton. Congratulations. Hampton beats Danny by 4 total points. And let's take a look at Hampton's picks from this week. He had Missy, Silva, and Owen, Gannon, Isaac, and crucially, Calvin. I think having Calvin was basically the deciding factor for Hampton to finish out the season with the victory. We will break down our own fantasy draft from earlier this year in a couple of weeks. Dan did get us in the end. Apparently, Josh came very close to passing him at USDGC and Throw Pink. So we'll break all that down. But it was a fun year for picks. The top points earner this week in FPO was Koisrus, who had Sophia Dunica, Paige Pierce, and Silva Sarnen. Great job on those picks. Over in MPO, 5 players tied with the same combination of players. Actually, not quite. Gannon, Isaac, Calvin. It was a popular combo this week, and it was a winning combo. Picking Isaac here, a wise move. So Shrey, RM, JP, Moonrocks, and Hampton all coming through with that. Having Calvin was the the key factor there. So congrats to all who joined. We're going to make a bunch of changes to the picks competition for next season. Similar overall structure, but we're going to do like more monthly contests along with the season-long contest and more fun stuff to come. So if you have thoughts on the point structure, I think we might have to take the 5X down a little next year. It felt like a little too strong at points, particularly when we were playing events in Europe. Stuff was just like kind of broken because of all of the 5X players who were playing in the field. So we will look forward to improving the site next year. And thank you so much to the developer, Martin, who's done such a great job of building it out. You can check it out at discgolf.ultiworld.com/upshot-picks. This will be our only show this week as I'm locking in for the USA Ultimate Club National Championships. It is the world's, or I don't know, maybe the US DGC of Ultimate Frisbee. I mean, this is the big one. So we will have some games free on our YouTube if you want to check it out. And if you're already a subscriber, you could consider upgrading your subscription to standard or all access to be able to watch all of the action this weekend. You can check out the finals and everything. So hope you check it out. It's a lot of fun. Disc golf season's over, so what else is there to do besides watch other disc sports? And we obviously don't have any tournaments coming up. So much more to come in the off season. We've got our storylines bracket. We've got our gaffs bracket. We've got, of course, we're going to have player of the year conversations. We're going to do more interviews, tons more to come. So we're not slowing down anytime soon. Thank you so much for joining us throughout this season. Appreciate you being a listener. Give us a like and a subscribe if you're checking this out on YouTube, if you would. And if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast app, give us a 5-star review, and we really appreciate it. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood, signing off. Congratulations once again to Holyn and Calvin for winning the Tour Championship. We'll talk to you next week. Are those seals? Or is that somebody screaming? I don't know. Exciting times.